Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Jew Like Me. My name is Jessica Israel, and this is a podcast for all of us who love Torah, but have felt like we are not fully represented in mainstream Jewish life or the pop culture idea of who a Jew is or what a Jew looks like. We are the children of Abraham, and this podcast is to create our place at the table, let our voices be heard, and celebrate the multiculturalism of Judaism. Let's get into our episode. Wow, it has been such a long time since I recorded an episode, and I am so happy to be back. This podcast is truly a labor of love, and I'm excited to again share from a perspective that I don't think is really heard as much. It's not that I'm clamoring for my voice to be heard, but it's just that I want others to know that someone sees them, someone hears them, and that, even if we don't agree on every single thing, which no one ever really should, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of being an individual. We're always going to have our differences, but that that someone else sees where you're coming from. And there's so many conversations that I think that we are being left out of, right? At least a Jew like me. One of the things has really been this new discussion coming up on Jewface, right? With Bradley Cooper playing a role. And it's interesting because I understand the concept in the background of the idea of Jewface. It's definitely not blackface, completely different historical context, completely different things. So not at all the same. Just let's get that out the door. But it's interesting because this idea that other Jews even perpetrate what a Jew is supposed to look like. And they don't recognize that they're doing that when they talk about these topics as well. Like, you want to fight against stereotypes. You want to fight against disrespectful depictions of someone, right? I'm not saying that's the situation with Bradley Cooper. But when doing so, it's interesting because they're saying, well, look at how Jews are depicted. And, oh, you made him have a big nose like a Jew and made it exaggerate and things like that, right? But then are we forgetting that there is a Jew like me? That there are other Jews that look like us. There are other Jews that don't look like that. And essentially that just means Ashkenazi, right? Because not even every European Jew or every person who is Jewish of European descent is Ashkenazi, right? And not every Ashkenazi person looks alike, clearly. But it's interesting how even that idea is still perpetrated within the Jewish community, with the Ashkenazi depiction being the default. And so to fight against what some may say is an exaggerated depiction of what a Jew looks like, right? But meanwhile, not have the conversation that Jews look like many different types of people, right? Different skin colors, different ethnic backgrounds, coming from different countries, different hair colors, different facial features, different body types, even different ways that we worship, different ways that we even believe in things. And the fact that that has been left out of the conversation was really disappointing to me, because I felt like this was an opportunity for us to show the world and tell the world, hey, you're making this depiction, but Jews, we are a multitude, right? We don't just look one way. That's not looking Jewish. And that's the other thing. When other Jews use that term, well, they're trying to make them look Jewish, or when people make someone look Jewish, well, what's looking Jewish? Why are we still perpetrating that idea? Why are we still using that type of language? And we don't even realize it. And I say we because I'm saying the collective we, but the Jewish community at large. That you don't realize that when you're saying these things, you are perpetrating a stereotype and pushing forward a stereotype of Jews fit into one box. So we have to think about when we are fighting against certain depictions, are we just saying, well, Jews look this way and you're exaggerating the feature? Or should the conversation be, Jews look many ways? Because it's interesting. The idea of Jewface, right? Like I said, nothing like blackface, very completely different thing, completely different historical context, completely different actions behind it, right? Bradley Cooper in this situation, that really wasn't that. He really is depicting someone else, and he wanted to make sure that the way he looked matched that person as much as possible. It was definitely not in a demeaning or disrespectful way. It was in no way to embarrass the family, and the family actually approved, right? They said, we love it. We thought it was great. And we thought our dad would have a laugh at it. But when these conversations happen, like I said, and we're hearing people say, well, they're just making us Jews look like we have a big nose and they're exaggerating this. Why are we not mentioning that somewhere out there, many places out there, there's a Jew like me? And when I say a Jew like me, I keep repeating that, not just because of the name of the podcast, but because it represents so much, which is why I even created this podcast. Because a Jew like me doesn't even necessarily look like me. That's the whole point. That is the point. You literally have Jews that many people would assume are Muslim, not because they have an Arabic background, because anybody can be a Muslim, right? Islam is one of the largest religions in the world and across the globe and throughout many different countries. So no one can actually look Muslim, right? We know that. But in terms of even how some women may choose to cover themselves, right? And the assumptions that people have, again, of, well, this is how a Jew looks. A Jew only looks this way. A Jew only does this. When are we really going to fight against this in the larger context and not just stop at being upset about what we think is an exaggerated depiction of what someone would typically describe as an Ashkenazi Jew? And I say typically describe as an Ashkenazi Jew because these are the features that people have stereotypically assigned or, recognize as being an Ashkenazi Jew. But this is a larger conversation, and I feel like the Jewish community really failed in this one. We had an opportunity to say, hey, you actually can't do Jewface, because to do Jewface, you would have to try to depict every single group of people in the world, because there are Jews all over the world, all over, right? And let's be real, if we're being realistic here, we always talk about the lost tribes, right? And maybe should we even say lost tribes anymore? Because lost to who? Is it lost in terms of what the Jewish community at large and those who have become in power accept as Jews? Or do you truly mean people who were, the children of Abraham, essentially, and had their identities wiped away, throughout generations and things of that nature? So that's another thing, but that's a whole different topic for a different day. But to really do Jewface, you'd have to have a depiction of everyone. We are spread across the globe. And as I said in one of my episodes last year, actually, where I said, who is a Jew? Well, God is who determines that. Hashem determines who is a Jew. We don't determine that. We have no power, and we have no right, and we have no authority to determine that. Now, different communities can accept whoever they want, and they can say this person belongs to our community. We accept them into it, and that's fine. You can do whatever you want in your own community. But no one, and I mean no one, has the authority to say who is a Jew. We can read what the Torah says and what God describes as being one of his people. But at the end of the day, we have no jurisdiction over that. And I just wish that the Jewish community at large would truly take these opportunities when they see them to, instead of perpetuating this idea, this Ashkenormative idea, that they truly come out in their defense. And what they say is that, hey, Jews are everywhere. We're all over the world. And we look so many different ways. You can't say what a Jew looks like. It's impossible. There's no way. So that's where I'm going to end it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm really excited to be back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plan out a season. I plan to run from September to December. I will post an episode once a month. And then I will take a break in January for the new year, just to, get my life together, get acclimated. And then again, we will run from February through May, posting once a month. And then we will take a break from June through August and be back in September again. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to getting back into this and many more episodes to come. So until next time, I'll speak with you soon. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. I really appreciate the support. Also, if you're interested and would like to send a personal donation, because this is a labor of love, my Cash App is Torah Blessed, TorahBlessed. Thank you again so much for the support, guys, and I really look forward to chatting again next time.